Okay, so this video is about contracts do not exist. Spiritual contracts before entering into this reality do not exist. So let's dive in and have a look at that. Some of these teachings are from the divine truth. I followed them how many years? About 10, 15 years ago, and I followed them for about 5 years. And I learned so much about what is potentially the construct of this reality and so much more. And some of this is just my own theory. So I'm just merging these two together just for transparency. Okay, so first of all, I want to prefix this by saying that I'm really into outer body experiences. I've had them myself, and I'm really into near-death experiences. And I've also had near-death experiences myself. And I really enjoy some YouTube channels that are actually people about near-death experience and OBEs. So I'm really, really an advocate of that. However, I'm not saying that these people haven't experienced making contracts before they come in. I just want to say that anything where you are making a contract to come in to harm someone else, you are out of the condition of love. For me, that tells me that the dimension that you were in while you were making this contract was not a dimension of love. So even though people have gone to these other realms are amazing, they're beautiful, and they feel that they are so in love and have so much love for the person that's going to be their abuser on earth and all the rest of it, or they're going to abuse someone or whatever it is, even though they feel that, I am telling you, that is a smokescreen. Okay, that is a smokescreen for the perversion of love. So this is the way that I look at it at the moment, and I will go into other videos about what I think this reality is. But let's just say in a very simplistic view that this is a virtual reality. And a lot of people are on board with this, right? We're in a virtual reality, or we're in a spiritual dimension that operates like a virtual reality under those same conditions and laws. So when we pass from this dimension, whether it's in an NDE or an OBE, or when we literally pass, we can go to other virtual realities, which appear to be far more loving than this realm, this reality. But what I think has actually happened in these other dimensions, in these other realities, is that the people that are maybe, let's say, in charge, right, of those realities have become warped in their viewpoint of what love is, and they are trying to manipulate the universal laws like karma and things like that. Okay, so I think that they have access to far more data and information than we have here, of course. Okay, so their realities are very different in the sense that you can, taste colors, you can teleport, and so these dimensions are beyond our comprehension in many ways, and they're magnificent in many, many ways. So I believe that they have access to data and information in various types of energy forms, right? And what they see is if you seal a contract with someone in that dimension and you come into this dimension, that you might be readdressing some sort of karmic balance or something like that. And they see those energies, and they see those energies get balanced from their perspective in that dimension. So they believe that they are doing something really, really good. Okay. However, the way that I see it is this, that there is in existence in all realities the original divine blueprint. And that original divine blueprint is based on love only. And what we think is love in this reality and other realities has been warped, because we believe that love is suffering. We believe sometimes love is death. We believe that love is sacrifice. And through the divine truth, they do hours and hours and hours and hours of what love actually is. What does love do? What does love look like? How does love think? So if you look at the pure condition of love, it's impossible, literally impossible, for you to abuse somebody else or for you to harm somebody else. Love literally cannot do that. The purest energy of love. So I believe that there's a divine blueprint. And with that divine blueprint, we only enter reality once. We've never been here before. And the reason for that is because there's a very, very precise mathematical formula. Okay. Because the divine blueprint has, let's just say, a hierarchy of where you enter life and where you so-called finish life, okay? And that divine blueprint has multiple dimensions. And I believe what's happened is, we would call them advanced beings, they've manipulated these existing original blueprints. So the idea is that you can only come into this reality once, because there is such a precise divine mathematical formula. Reincarnation disrupts that formula, because the organic way to come into existence from the higher dimensions into this lower realm and then back up into the higher dimensions is already orchestrated. The pathway is already set. And you can't alter that pathway. You can pervert that pathway, but you can't alter that pathway. And the idea is that when you come into this reality, that it's with such precision, okay, that also that your soulmate comes into this reality as well with such precision, and only the two of you can combine. Okay, so there's only one other person for you. So I'm just trying to highlight sort of precision here. I mean, there's so much more. I've got so many videos on this. So what I'm saying is the original divine blueprint from the original creator, who we still don't know who that is, that you come into this density only once. You've never been here before. And then you go through this density and then up into the higher realms again when you exit this density. And that is preset. However, this density, right, whatever you want to call it, or this density that we were supposed to come into on the original blueprint, has been manipulated into the 3D reality we see today. Now, the importance of this is what actually comes in, what is actually coming into this reality in the first place. What we call the soul, you could call it, right, which is actually not inside of you, weirdly, it's kind of outside of you, right? Let's just see it as a bubble, right? Let's just see it as a bubble at the moment. So this soul is the primary program of the divine blueprint. And it comes into this density, okay? And I'm doing another video about why it comes into this density. It comes into this density, and then people that have created worlds in other dimensions see some sort of energy field coming into this density, which is going to enter into a child, right? So they can see that energy field coming in. So they're standing in their dimension, in their reality, and they can see this energy is going to enter a child because they can see energies, okay? And then what they say, they also can see the path and the life that that child is going to have in this perverted density, right? That has been like a mirror of the original blueprint. So what happens in their dimensions, because they're trying to correct the universal laws, right? They say to a person, right, who's in that dimension, listen, if you go into this reality and you murder so and so, you're going to correct your karmic, your previous lives karmically, right? Because they can see some sort of energy that's being rectified. My understanding is what they can actually see is the perverted version of those energies being rectified. You kill me, I kill you. I harm you, you harm me. Not the original loving blueprint of this reality. So this is where it's gone wrong. So it doesn't matter how beautiful it seems before you come into this reality. It doesn't matter how much love you feel for your perpetrator before coming into this reality. If you are signing a contract to harm somebody, you are in the perverted reality. You are under a perverted agreement. And there's no way, hell on earth, if I get up to one of those dimensions, which I'm sure I won't be accepted anyway because of my belief structure, there's no way I am signing a contract to come into this reality. And what's happening, and this is really important, this is really, really, really important. The original soul is traveling from the original divine blueprint down into this reality. The divine original blueprint density, 3D density. So this is the perverted mirror of that. So that is the original soul. It's never been here before, and it's entering a child for the first time. Once someone is standing on the precipice in another dimension, they can somehow enter into that original soul and come in like a parasite attached to that soul into that child. And as we go through what we would call synthetic reincarnation, multiple people can attach to that soul as it cycles round, right? So if you're on the precipice and you're making a contract and you can see that soul or that energy coming in and you enter it, you are not that soul. You are attached into that soul. You are not the soul. And you are distorting the original soul blueprint as it comes into the child. So that's my belief structure. And when I listen to OBEs and NDEs, I can see this really manipulated spiritual structure in other realities that think they are doing good. And they apparently have been doing it for thousands of years. And I believe that there's multiple dimensions where they are practicing this. And because it's so advanced from our knowledge base, that when we end up in those other dimensions through an NDE or through an OBE, okay, and they say, well, it's not your time yet, you need to go back, right? That they are manipulating the original blueprint. They have the ability to do that, but it doesn't mean it's correct. Because if you are left to travel through the organic, the first divine blueprint, you will never return to Earth. You will never return here. There is no request, there is no requirement, there is no need, there is no extra development that you're going to get here that you cannot get in the other original divine spiritual realms, the original ones. So this is a myth. This is an obsession with this density to, yeah, they have made it a training school, right? If you approach this density like it's going to be a training school of hardship, that's exactly what you're going to get. All right. So they've seen something. They say, well, look at that shitty, reality. It has to be a training school. It cannot be anything else. No, it's just a shitty reality that we should not be coming into in the first place. Because it's a construct that has been perverted. It's a mirror of the original divine blueprint. That is the problem. All right. So there's no need for you to come back here. Now, having said this, there's many times in my life when I have wished that I had not been in this reality, that I had not been here. And as I'm coming to the end of my life, I'm 60 this year, so we know we only have X amount of years left, and that is a true reality. There becomes a intense, beautiful aspect of living because you know you have only X amount of years left. If you haven't reached 60, you won't really understand what I'm saying. But when you hit 60, it's really hard in your face that you only have X amount of years left, right? You don't feel it in your 50s, your 40s, your 30s, your 20s. You just don't see it in the same way. And that beautiful intensity of this reality, even the perverted side of this reality, right? That we've built these monstrosities, these cities which we call beautiful. And as Terence McKenna said, they're like scabs on the original divine blueprint. So what we have is reflections of the divine blueprint coming through into this reality all the time. We see a beautiful flower. We seem to love the animal kingdom more. A lot of people in their 60s start painting and making and creating, right? Because they're freed up to actually do that, because they're engaging with the original blueprint. So the original divine blueprint is actually interwoven into this perverted reality. And I've always been someone, I'm never coming back here. I've always said that based on what I'm telling you today, but based on I would never want to come back to this reality. But as you get to this age, there's just such a beauty in, like, I don't know, if I'm sitting with one of my animals and I see them as this perfect creation. All right. If you look at a flower, if you're sitting by the beach, and sometimes and actually more than that, when you're just having a normal thing like a cup of tea, you're just taking a moment, you're having a cup of tea. And I think to myself, oh, in X amount of years, I'm not going to be able to be in this 3D reality having this cup of tea. Right. And I think I'm going to miss that. Right. So even though I trust that I'm going to, a new and a more exciting dimension, I'm going to miss these kind of slow density things that we do here. And a part of me is like, well, I would love to come back. Right. But what I'm really calling is not this perverted reality. Right. I would love to come back to this original divine blueprint of this type of density, right, which would look nothing like this world that we're living in. So it would be very, very easy to, if you have no knowledge, to end up in another dimension. And then you end up in this beautiful realm, and there's all this like what we would call technology that you've never seen before, and buildings and flavors and tastes and sights that you've never seen before, right? And you've got people there that seem to love and care for you, and I'm sure they do. And they say, hey, listen, you need to go back and you need to do this. And this thing is going to be really bad, but you're going to learn so much from it. It would be so easy to fall for that. And I'm not saying that they're doing it as a smoke and mirror, right? But just the same as this reality has very intricate perversions on multiple layers, right? You could say that there is an oversoul, a perverted oversoul that is actually trying to manipulate things, right? In this, obviously, in this reality and these other realities. And the people telling you to come back is that they could just be under that spell of perversion, right? Just the same as we're under spells of perversion here. We're under multiple spells of perversion on so many different levels. So what I'm saying to you, if you end up in another dimension and you're asked to sign a contract and you're asked to come back, you could say no. And you could repeat what I'm saying, right? To whatever dimension you're in, to the people in those dimensions, right? And we could change that, because all we're doing is perpetuating harm. We know this intrinsically in our soul. We are maintaining this realm at the lower vibration that it is by participating in those deeply unloving and horrific actions under the guise of this is a school, this is learning, and I'm readdressing my karma. So never sign a contract to abuse anyone, sexually abuse anyone, harm anyone, kill anyone, murder anyone, or anything like that. That is an unloving act. And at some point, I do firmly believe this, you will have to pay some sort of consequence for entering into that, to go through that process at some point. But you can delay it. I think people have delayed that for thousands and thousands of years once they've passed from this reality. But you will have to go through that. And I think the last thing to say is I hear a lot about ascension, and I will do another video on that. Trust me, no one in this reality is ascending, because the laws that we live by in modern day are so perverted, so satanic, so selfish, so deeply unloving, from the very simplest things like having a bank account, that it is impossible for you to ascend. Because let's have a look. How could I make another analogy? It's very difficult for me to say this because I love animals. Say you work at a slaughterhouse. And we all know that what's going on there is, from a spiritual context, is completely wrong. But say that you're a very kind person that works in that environment, right? Maybe you're not actually doing any of the killing of animals, right? But maybe you're in that environment, all right? You're working in some capacity and you are turning a blind eye to what's going on. When you come out of there, of working there, right? Everybody that comes out from working in those type of places are on the same level of condition of love. Some slightly lower, some slightly higher, but basically the same. So that would be completely different. Some people coming out from working in a flower factory, right? That are growing flowers, right? That's the sort of analogy I'm trying to make here. All right, the fact that we live in this 3D reality With all the multiple layers of perversion and unloving laws, there's no way, hell on earth, you are ascending. Because we have been conditioned to be very, very vicious at every single level. Even, as I said, just having a bank account. Bank accounts are selfish. Bank accounts are based on fear. We have to have them in this reality. It's essential. Because everyone's trying to get one over on somebody else and everyone's trying to survive. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. But I'll never sign a contract to harm somebody else when I reach another dimension.